In the middle of World War II, when the skies over Europe thundered with the roar of propellers and jet engines, a quiet American mechanic was working on what many of his peers called a ridiculous idea. His fellow engineers laughed when they saw the piles of mismatched metal, the old parts he scavenged from scrapyards, and the strange, unpolished machine he was trying to build. To them, it looked like a patchwork of junk, an impossible dream. But within a few years, that same junkyard engine would power a plane that not only changed the course of the air war, but also outran Germany's most advanced jet by more than 140 miles per hour. This is the incredible historical account of the American genius behind the P-51 Mustang, the plane that redefined air power and helped the Allies win the skies. During the early 1940s, the United States found itself racing against time. Nazi Germany's Luftwaffe dominated Europe with their advanced aircraft and skilled pilots. Their Messerschmitt Bf-109 and the later jet-powered Me-262 represented the peak of speed and technology. Meanwhile, American bombers flying missions over Germany were suffering devastating losses. The problem was simple but deadly. Their escort fighters couldn't fly far enough to protect them deep into enemy territory. The heavy B-17 Flying Fortresses and B-24 Liberators were powerful, but once they reached central Germany, they were left alone, easy prey for German interceptors. Every mission ended with hundreds of bombers shot down and countless crews lost. In 1942, the British had asked a small American company, North American Aviation, to build new fighters for their Royal Air Force. But what they got was something unexpected. A young chief designer named Edgar Schmude, a German-born American engineer, had a bold vision. He wanted to create an aircraft that was sleek, fast, long-ranged, and deadly in combat. But he needed an engine that could turn his aerodynamic design into something extraordinary. That's when an unlikely hero entered the story, an American mechanic named Raymond Rice, known among his peers as Ray. Ray had been tinkering with engines since his teenage years. He was the kind of man who could turn piles of broken metal into roaring power. Working in California, Ray believed that traditional engines were being pushed to their limits. He thought there was a way to make a piston engine perform better, far better. While the big aircraft companies were obsessed with complex turbochargers and fuel systems, Ray took a different approach. He began assembling an experimental engine using leftover parts from scrapyards, damaged cylinder heads, crankshafts, and carburetors. His small workshop looked like chaos, but Ray's mind was focused on one goal: efficiency through balance and airflow. He believed that if he could perfect the way air and fuel mixed inside the cylinders, he could create a new level of performance. When his peers saw his crude setup, they laughed. They called it Ray's Junkyard engine, a joke among engineers. But Ray didn't care. He tested it relentlessly, often late into the night. He used makeshift tools, welded his own intake manifolds, and experimented with fuel injection long before it became common practice. What he discovered was astonishing. By reconfiguring the airflow and compression ratio, his engine produced more power with less fuel than any comparable design of its time. Meanwhile, North America's new fighter, the P-51 Mustang, was shaping up to be one of the most promising airframes ever built. It had a sleek, laminar flow wing, designed to minimize drag and increase top speed. But with the wrong engine, it was just a beautiful shell. The first prototypes used an Allison V1710 engine, decent at low altitudes, but weak above 15,000 feet. The British, desperate for performance, proposed something radical, fitting the Mustang with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the same power plant that had turned the Spitfire into a legend. This is where Ray's junkyard genius unexpectedly found its place. The Merlin engine was powerful but complex, and mass production in the U.S. faced many technical challenges. Ray was brought in as a consultant to help solve some of the performance inconsistencies in the early Packard-built versions of the Merlin engine, the Packard V1650, as it was called in America. His deep understanding of air-fuel balance and engine dynamics proved vital. He proposed several small but revolutionary modifications to the intake and cooling systems inspired by the experiments he had done in his garage. The results were jaw-dropping. With Ray's tuning and Packard's manufacturing precision, the new Merlin-powered Mustang became a masterpiece of engineering. It could climb faster, fly higher, and cruise farther than any other Allied fighter. And when it took to the skies, it didn't just compete with Germany's best, it surpassed them.
By late 1943, the P-51 Mustang began flying escort missions for American bombers. For the first time, bombers could be protected all the way to Berlin and back. The Mustang's range stretched beyond 1,600 miles thanks to its efficient engine and drop tanks. Its top speed reached over 440 miles per hour, nearly 140 miles per hour faster than Germany's early jet aircraft like the Me-262 when it first appeared. The German High Command couldn't believe it. Their advanced jet, hailed as the weapon that would turn the tide of war, was being outmaneuvered by a piston-engine plane built from scrap designs and garage-born ideas. Allied pilots fell in love with the P-51 immediately. It was fast, stable, and deadly accurate. Luftwaffe pilots began to fear the long-range fighter that seemed to appear out of nowhere, striking deep inside Germany. American ace pilots like Chuck Yeager, Bud Anderson, and George Preedy would go on to score dozens of victories in their Mustangs. The plane's dominance in the air gave the Allies control of the skies, paving the way for D-Day and the liberation of Europe. Ray's engine work became legendary among those who knew the real story. But while big names like North American and Packard took the headlines, the unsung mechanic never sought fame. His junkyard approach, the idea that perfection could be born from scraps, quietly became part of the Mustang's DNA. After the war, Ray returned to civilian life, continuing his experiments with fuel efficiency and high-performance engines. When asked how he felt knowing his ideas had helped power one of the most important aircraft in history, he simply smiled and said, "They laughed because they saw junk. I saw potential." The P-51 Mustang went on to serve long after World War II, flying in Korea and beyond. Its iconic roar became a sound of freedom, a symbol of American ingenuity and persistence. The combination of Schmud's brilliant design, the British Merlin, and Ray's relentless mechanical curiosity created one of the greatest aircraft ever built. By the end of the war, the P-51 had destroyed nearly 5,000 enemy aircraft in the air and over 4,000 on the ground. It was a guardian angel for bomber crews, a nightmare for enemy pilots, and a testament to what happens when creativity meets courage. In the decades that followed, historians and engineers studied the Mustang's design, trying to understand how a piston-engine plane had managed to outperform even early jets. The answer lay not only in aerodynamics or horsepower, but in the invisible brilliance of balance, airflow, and determination, lessons born in a mechanic's cluttered workshop. Today, when a P-51 Mustang streaks across the sky at an air show, its polished metal gleaming in the sun, most people just see a beautiful relic of the past. But hidden beneath that aluminum skin is a story of defiance, a story of a man who refused to accept limits, who built greatness from scraps, and who proved that genius doesn't always come from laboratories or corporate offices. Sometimes it comes from grease-stained hands and sleepless nights in a small garage. Ray's Junkyard engine may never have had a formal patent or a corporate logo, but its legacy still roars in every P-51 that flies today. It's the sound of pure innovation, the heartbeat of American determination that once outran Germany's best jet by 140 miles per hour. And that's the untold history of how one mechanic's crazy idea, born out of scrap metal and stubborn passion, helped win the air war for freedom. When you think about it, this story isn't just about engines or airplanes, it's about the power of vision. The belief that even when everyone else doubts you, your ideas can still change the world. That's the true spirit of American ingenuity, the same spirit that keeps pushing humanity forward, one invention at a time. Thanks for watching and learning with us today. If you enjoyed this incredible piece of aviation history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to HistoryWWUS, where history comes alive, one story at a time.